today. So that recording will include your comments, so I hope that's okay with you. Um, and Jeffrey Hamilton is our recorder and wrangler today. So if you have any problems with audio or anything else, you can always chat to him. Well, I'm glad you're joining me today. It's a beautiful day here in Raleigh, and I've got a lot of slides to get through, more than usual, so I'm going to dive right in and go as fast as I can. But that being said, feel free to interrupt, ask a question, type it in chat, and just let me know if there's anything you want me to slow down on or go over again. We'll try to make sure we get all the URLs typed in the chat box for you as well. All right, I'm starting off with our what's new here in Raleigh, and what we've got is a new secretary of the Department of Cultural Resources. That is Susan Klutz, and she was a longtime mayor of Salisbury and is a big library supporter. Was a library supporter when she lived in Salisbury and has brought that to Raleigh with her. So we're very happy to have her at the helm. We also have a new chief deputy that's second in command to Secretary Klutz, and that's someone named Karen Cochran, who has a really good business background, and I'm enjoying working with her already. And of course, I'm sure some of you who have been around a few years know Kevin Cherry, and he has come back to the department as well in archives. So we've got a dream team up at the top, I think, and they are already up to speed and moving fast in this environment. So let's look at what's going on in this environment. Well, one of the things is it's budget time for you and for me. I'm starting with federal funding, and that is the funding that comes to the State Library from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. They, as all other federal agencies, are being impacted by the sequester. And the way that is going to look for IMLS and for the State Library in particular is we are going to be seeing a 3.4% cut to our LSTA funds. Those are the library funds that we get because of the Library Services and Technology Act. That cut will translate into $150,000. This is actually a little bit of good news because we were expecting something a little closer to 8%. So when you've been looking at an 8% cut, a 3% cut is, you know, hey, not so bad. At the same time, the governor has submitted his proposed budget to the legislature. And of course, the Department of Cultural Resources supports the governor's budget. That budget does contain a cut to the state aid program, and this is state funding to public libraries statewide. That translates into a 4.8% cut, and in dollar amounts, it's $657,000, $517. That's going to hit some libraries pretty hard. Now, that is, at this point, still a recommended budget. We don't know what the legislature is going to do with that budget, and that is something that will come to light here in the coming weeks and months. Moving on, keeping you up to date with our staff, we're very excited to have Molly Westmoreland joining the library development staff here at the State Library. Molly was previously the director at the Appalachian Regional Library up in the mountains. She is joining us as the management consultant for libraries to advise library directors about all issues having to do with management. She will also be overseeing our Center for the Book and the programs from that section. We also have a new office assistant, and I want you to know her name because if you get email from Wanda Wisnant, you'll know that that's a legitimate email from someone here at the State Library. She has just started and has already thrown herself into the job. We also have a new technician down in genealogy, Marie Jones. Marie has a lot of experience with genealogy and has really hit the ground running. I mention this because our genealogy section provides backup to public libraries with tough genealogy questions and with interlibrary loan services. So it might be good for you to know Marie's name, although you don't have to know it to request those services. I'm going to dive in with the bringing you up to speed on the Government Heritage Library. This is one of the 3 sections in the State Library. The Government Heritage Library, we have a library for the blind and physically handicapped, and we have the library development section. So what's new downstairs in the Government and Heritage Library? This is where NCpedia, our online encyclopedia, is growing by leaps and bounds every day. They have information from or about all 100 counties in North Carolina. So a fun thing to do is to look up your county and to see what kind of entries they have. Staff are in the process right now of adding North Carolina biographies. You can go to your county listing and check out what biographies they have from your county. The URL is right there, and Jeffrey's put it in the chat box. This is a wonderful resource for children doing projects about North Carolina, looking for North Carolina symbols. What is our state dog? What is our state flower? NCpedia is where you want to go for that. Should you want more information about NCpedia, please contact Michelle Underhill. She'd love to hear from you. NC Echo has been reformatted recently. It's right now acting as a single search box for local history collections. And these are collections from a wide variety of institutions. And it's also a wide variety of resources. The reason I'm mentioning this is because they're actively looking for other digital objects to add to their collection. Let me show you what it looks like. Here's the page, the landing page. And as you see, you can search by county. And when you get into the institutional directory, you can search by city as well. So there's a lot of different ways to access these documents. And if you'd like to make sure that your county is represented, you can contact NC Echo at ncecho.org. Thanks, Jeffrey. We have another brand new site that has come up, Digital Preservation website. This is a godsend for both librarians and library staff members and our patrons. Anyone who is interested in preserving their files for the long term. This is a joint project of the State Librarian Archives. We do a lot of projects with the archives. This website shows and shares best practices and guidelines about how to keep your files so that they can stick around for the long term. If you're planning a digitization project, this is a great place to visit to prove that you've thought about how those files will be managed when the project is over. If I was submitting an LSTA grant application for a digitization project, I would certainly want to check this site before proceeding with that application. They are happy to answer questions as well about digital projects. If you'd like more information, I would say contact Lisa Gregory. You can go on the site too. There's probably a help URL on that site. We are very concerned with keeping our files accessible for the long term. Moving on, the web downstairs in the genealogy section just won an award, a Reader's Choice Award for Best Library or Archive Blog with the genealogical focus. So there is the URL for our blog. It's kind of fun to read. I have subscribed. And if you want more information about that, contact Lisa Gregory. I will say that, let me show you what it looks like, that genealogy is something that we get a lot of interest in because we have a good collection and we've got good staff that can really help people with the more difficult queries. We're sort of where people come once they've hit a wall and they can't do anything more on their own. So there is the GHL blog to give you an idea of what that looks like. Moving on to the Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped, they have a new program too, and that is digital magazines. They're already distributing books in digital format. Now they have just started distributing digital magazines, and the patrons are pleased. I thought this was kind of interesting. Actually, the digital materials coming out of our LBPH have better sound quality, and I believe the player might be a little bit easier to use. What I'm hearing from staff out there is that while some of their users really didn't want to go to digital at first, once they did, suddenly they want everything in digital format. So that explains the comment, "It's about time." Patrons can subscribe to magazines through the Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped and select from an assortment of magazines every month that will be delivered directly to them. If you'd like more information about that, Carl Keene is the director at the Library for the Blind. Okay, I know everybody's going to want this. Thanks, Jeffrey. I was kind of wondering if that was going to show up. I should have said something. Moving on to LSTA. We are very pleased with the quantity and the quality of the 2013-14 LSTA grant applications received. We received a total of 67 applications. 46 of those were the EZ applications, and 21 were the larger project applications. We hope to award up to $2 million of the total amount requested, which, as you can see there, is over $3 million. So it's getting a little tougher to get these grants. We're having some more competition this year than perhaps in previous years. At this point, the library development consultants and senior management team here at the library are in the process of reading and reviewing every application. The 9-member LSTA Advisory Committee will meet in May here in Raleigh to review the project grant applications and to make recommendations about all of the recommendations. Grant awards will be publicly announced on June 11th, and each project manager will be notified a few days before that. So there are the categories and the total requested. So got some interesting projects in the works. It was some interesting reading on those applications. Thanks to everybody who applied. I wish we could fund every single one, but as you can see, we're not going to be able to do that this year. Moving on, guess where we're getting ready to go? Summer reading. Summer reading is right around the corner. And Youth Services Consultant Laurie Special reports that the summer reading workshops were a big success. We had the number of attendees, as you can see, at each of those 3 locations. And you can see some of the session topics. I know there's a lot of interest in the Common Core curriculum among youth services librarians and librarians of all types. So we made sure to include some training about that in these workshops. We'd like to share a thank you to the hosts and their staff at our host libraries, Tammy Baggett in Durham, Jennifer Sackett in Lincoln County, and Karen Wallace at Fontana Region. We really appreciate you and your staff members for taking this on. It's not easy. We also want to thank all of the youth services staff around the state who contributed to the workshops by presenting sessions, helping planning, and assisting Laurie in any number of ways. A reminder, the end of the summer statistics are due September 11th, 2013. We are putting a lot of effort into gathering data that we can share around the state, within this department, with other states, about what it is that we do. Some of this is as an effort to prove our value. And so getting the statistics from you really makes it easier for us to prove our value. Here's an example. We're conducting right now a youth services staff census. Again, Lori Special is managing this. We're measuring our youth services staff in a number of ways, and what we want to do is to see, have things gotten better since the last time we did this in 2008, or have things gotten worse? This is going to help us determine what types of youth services activities we need to offer. Obviously, the governor has as a priority for his administration, a high focus on education, and we want to make sure that we can do what we can to support that focus of his and the Department of Public Instruction. One thing that we've done, again, in conjunction with archives and other departments here at the Department of Cultural Resources, is an educational database. This database contains resources from all across the Department of Cultural Resources. It is searchable by a number of different topics, and it is designed, let me show you what it looks like. It's designed to be useful to students and teachers. Here's the landing page, and across the top you can see that you can search it by topics, such as American Indians, agriculture, civil rights, pirates, some interesting topics there. You can search by resource, so teachers can search just for lesson plans, or if they're looking to take a field trip, they can search by field trips. Online activities, there are various resources in here. You can look by grade level if you're looking for a resource for a particular grade level. Time period in history, so Revolutionary War, Civil War, and keyword. You can search by division, and that's who put the resource up. I don't imagine you're really going to care much about that, but this is a wonderful way to reach out to teachers who are trying to accommodate the new Common Core curriculum, and for local libraries to say, hey, we've got some pretty neat resources that can help you make this change from what you've been doing to the Common Core curriculum, which is focusing on nonfiction. This is nonfiction. So that's our new educational portal, and Jeffrey put up the URL. Thank you. Moving on now to library development, and one of our, well, not that Laurie's not in library development, but one of our projects that we're running around the state is the NC Cardinal project. This is the latest and greatest map of where the Cardinal libraries are. Cardinal is a shared integrated library system that all the red counties are sharing. So they have one catalog and that they're all sharing across these library systems and these counties. It's growing by leaps and bounds. And in fact, I got this new map slide about a half an hour before today's webinar because BHM, Beaufort Hyde Martin Regional Library, just joined. Here's the upcoming migration schedule. So libraries say, Caldwell County said, we want to be a member of Cardinal. We put them in the queue, and so they're going to be next to migrate, and that's taking place this month. Then they'll be followed by McDowell, Albemarle. The further out we get, the little more, it gets a little more tentative, but Forsyth, we're saying that we think we'll be able to do them in October. Cumberland County just decided earlier this week, I think, to join, and then I believe we heard from BHM today. This is growing by leaps and bounds. Let me see, what is the total right now? With these, when these 6 systems, let me go back, sorry. When these 6 systems join, we will have 19 library systems as members of Cardinal, covering 26 counties and 2 municipalities. So what's new with Cardinal? We did just open up the sharing across the library. So while they have a single catalog where everyone can see everyone else's materials, we turned on sharing across all of the libraries and developed a delivery system between the libraries. So the average wait time for hold, since we turned that on, the sharing, the resource sharing across. That has decreased 75%, and the time it takes for someone to get a hold, it's gone down from 5 days to 1.7 days from February to now. Jane, the delivery system, it's a little clunky right now. It is UPS, and all of the libraries have bags that they put the books in, and the UPS person picks them up, and they are going on that on their regular routes. We aren't delivering to every branch, so in some of the regional libraries, the delivery might go to the main library, and then the main library has to deliver out to all of the branches in the region. So I see that you're typing. Who pays for the delivery? Right now, the state library pays for the delivery. Let me show you. We've got an upcoming meeting for all the Cardinal libraries in May, and we're going to discuss a proposal for libraries to start picking up some of their own costs for Cardinal. Our goal in getting this whole project started was to develop a base that we could use for statewide resource sharing. I think actually it's been more successful than we anticipated. I think we're ready to move on to that once we can kind of catch up with the libraries that are in the queue and stabilize a few things. So we're anticipating that next year some of the first libraries that came on to Cardinal will start picking up some of their own costs. And those will still be very reasonable compared to, although I'm hearing that some of our vendors are starting to get really good deals in the state. And if you are one of the libraries that's benefiting from that, I say good for you, because I'm just happy. Any way we can save libraries money is a good thing in my book. If you want more information about Cardinal, Tanya Procrim is the program manager for that program. Going to move on to continuing education. We have started to offer more workshops this spring, and I'm hoping that we can offer even more next fall. We had some very popular NC Live workshops from the very far west over to the east. They were well attended. We have two things going on at once. The State Library has been offering one-day generic intro to NC Live. Let's have an overview of everything that's on the resource. And at the same time, NC Live vendors have been doing smaller, more targeted sessions on their particular products, and those could be anywhere from an hour to a couple hours, half a day. So you can approach NC Live from any number of angles, and we hope to continue to do those workshops in the fall, because the more people know about it, the more they're able to use it and use it well. LibGuides, it's been almost a full house at every single LibGuides workshop this spring, and we've actually just added one more session in Asheville in late May. If you'd want more information about any of this continuing education, you'd want to contact Kelly Brannick, and she can tell you the date and the time of that session. These are all also on our train station, which is the website that lists all of our training, and I bet Jeffrey can get that URL up for us because I didn't put it on this slide. Customer service. We did this one time about a year ago. It was very popular. We were planning to offer them again this spring, and there was some problem with the trainer. She just didn't have capacity, or she couldn't travel. She is from California. So we had to postpone these. We're hoping to have 3 sessions in August. So watch the train station, and details will be posted there, as well as the CE info listserv for anyone who's wants to know more about continuing education. We did offer also, just closing the loop, collaboration workshops, and that was to support our LSTA planning. One of the goals for our new LSTA plan is cooperation and collaboration and partnerships. So we thought this might be useful in helping people develop those partnerships. I'm going to move on to the Center for the Book, And there it is. Our new consultant is Molly Westmoreland. So if you want more information about any of these programs, Molly is the person to contact. Going on right now in the Center for the Book are the Letters About Literature competition, and that is where children and teenagers write letters to authors, living or dead, to say what sort of impact that author's work has had on them. Some of those letters are really interesting. One of the neat things we did this year was we got a nice mix of school and public librarians to serve as our judges. And it was kind of interesting because the judges, I don't think they knew what they were getting into when they signed up to do this. One judge said, "I volunteered to judge because it sounded like you all needed some help. As it so often happens, I got way more out of it than I contributed. Reading some of the letters helped me remember this is why reading is so important and why I love my job." I'm especially happy with the winning letter. That was the letter that stayed with me after I read them all. I'll be mentioning this contest to my teachers for next year. So obviously that was a school librarian. Another judge commented, "Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this program. I would love to do this again next year." You can look for the names of the North Carolina winners because this is a program that happens in all 50 states. And you can look for their award-winning letters on our Center for the Book pages on the State Library website soon. The North Carolina winners will be entered into the national contest, and we'll see who wins the big enchilada at the national level. We also have going right now the Gilbert Chapel Distinguished Poets Series, and this is where a published poet is paired up with a student, and they do public readings in their libraries. This month, poet Ann Deegan and her students will present their poems in events in Greensboro and in Durham County, and other distinguished poets will be offering similar events at libraries in the west and the eastern regions of the state. If you want to know more about that, contact Molly. We're doing great on time here, y'all, so if you have any questions, type them in. Moving on to the eBook Advisory Committee. This is an interesting committee that the State Library has formed because, frankly, we were a little confused about what to do about ebooks. We have a very, I would just say, interesting landscape here in North Carolina. And then you look at the overall landscape of ebooks generally, which is very fluid, and we got some decisions to make. There are some consortia already operating in the state. NC Live has ebooks. They may not be the kind of ebooks you're looking for your patrons, but they have some. There are 2 consortia in public libraries, excuse me, already in the state, and then there are about a third of the public libraries in the state aren't able right now to offer ebook access to their patrons. So this committee was formed to advise the State Library on how to go forward. What kind of ebooks do y'all want? There's different models for how to access different platforms. I sort of see it all as like the VHS and beta phase, you know, when the video cassettes were fighting it out. I would hate to make a wrong decision, but sometimes making no decision is worse than making a wrong decision. So we want to move forward on this, funding being available, and there's no even guarantee of that at this point, but we want to be ready to move forward should funding be available. We've had 2 meetings so far. I would want to say thanks to the library directors who were on the committee. That's Dana Ure, Michael Roach, and Ruth Ann Copley. And Ed Cherry. Ruth Ann and Ed are serving ex officio. And then we have staff members from New Hanover Library, East Albemarle, Southern Pines, Rutherford, Charlotte Mecklenburg, Buncombe, and Randolph. I really appreciate all of them for putting in the time and effort. These are actually really interesting meetings. We also have, as an ex officio member, Tim Rogers from NC Live. So there's some pretty interesting comments at these meetings. We haven't made any decisions yet, but things are changing so quickly. We have a little bit of time before we have to make a decision because, as I said, we're not sure at this point whether there will be funding to cover that. Jane, is the book looking at issues around ebooks for kids and teens? Well, that's a really interesting question, Jane. When I drafted the charge for this committee, I had two focus areas. One was fiction, popular fiction for adults, or even just fiction for adults. I was willing to even give up on the popular there for a while, and nonfiction for children. At the first meeting of the committee, and let me tell you, they're all a lot smarter than I am, they said, we really don't think that we can tackle both of these issues at the same time. So we peeled off the nonfiction for youth and are concentrating on the adult books right now. Local system about to give iPads or laptops to every student. That is really cool. I'm sure that we'd love to hear how that goes and what kind of demands they put on the library as a result of that program in the schools. I'd be fascinated to know that. We feel strongly that we need to do something for the schools because we're no longer using LSTA funds to fund collection development grants. Thanks. Yeah, I'd really like to know. We used to fund collection development grants in individual school systems. There were so many of those and so little money that I thought it would be better if we could leverage what funding we had instead of funding 10 systems out of all of the multiple school systems in the state. If we could put all those funds together into one pot and buy something that could be available across the state for every school system. Of course, the big gorilla in the living room of that is bandwidth and whether libraries and school systems have the bandwidth. But so as you can see, there's a lot to think about in this particular project. So stay tuned and we'll keep you informed as we move along. Another virtual petting zoo. Virtual petting zoo is another one of my bright ideas because digital literacy is such a need in our libraries. I hear this over and over again that the day after Christmas, libraries are inundated with patrons who are bringing in their brand new Christmas present, which is an iPad or some sort of mobile device or who knows, and they're wanting the librarian or the library staff to make it work for them. So we are trying to actively look for ways to help libraries meet those needs for digital literacy, which I think it ought to be technology literacy because you're learning about technology. But regardless, everybody else is calling it digital literacy. We are looking at developing a project with library schools in the state. We're very fortunate in North Carolina to have 5 library schools in the state, wherein interns from the library and information science programs could be or could serve as helpers in their local public library to help those libraries meet the digital literacy needs of their patrons. We have no preconceived notions about what those digital literacy needs might be because they're going to vary from library to library. And we don't want to, just because we have a hammer, we don't want to think everything's a nail. So we're seeing this as sort of a highly specialized program where if an intern was to work with your library, they would be doing something specifically to and for your library, which other interns may be doing something totally different. I think it's an interesting concept. I'll be very honest and say we're going a little more slowly than I was hoping. One of the neat things is that the students in taking classes online can live and intern in any part of the state. So they may live in Robeson County and be going to UNC Chapel Hill. So they can do the intern program at home in their local library. I'll keep you informed about this one too. It's going a little slow, but we'll see if we can get it going. We never did intend to get anything started before the fall semester, so we have a little room to keep working on this. We've got a really interesting committee of library school students, some public library staff, and some state library staff, and some faculty. So it's a very broad committee. And when you have that many people, sometimes that alone will make you go a little bit slower. All right, Jane is typing. Okay. Well, Jane, it'll work if you've got a library student from your, well, unless we, see, this is what I'm talking about. Unless we open this up for long distance assistance. I was really thinking of this in terms of someone going to library school, living in their hometown, and approaching their hometown library and saying, hey, I'm in library school. I want to intern. I want my internship program to be helping you with your digital literacy needs. Are you up for it? Of course, the library could say no, I suppose. But this is a work in progress, as somebody I know used to say, so we'll let you know what we find out. The website says to request a session, and there is a form. I have polled my staff and was getting ready. I'm not sure if I understand. Sure, go ahead and sign up, but what are you signing up for, Lynn? Because I don't know that this is on the website yet. I mean, this is pretty new. We've had 2 meetings, and they've both been in, they were both in March. So, okay. And Elizabeth's going to, y'all will set me straight. I know you will, and I appreciate that because I need that. For the e-reader petting zoo. Oh, yes, this is different from that. Okay. Interesting observation. Thank you, Lynn. Yeah. And what we're calling this project the petting zoo because we had petting zoos that actually consisted of an array of devices that could come to your library, and your staff could feel them, touch them, turn them on, manipulate them, and become familiar with them. What we are discovering is that by the time we actually buy the devices and get them out in the libraries, the next generation device is out or something better is out. I'm going to let Jeffrey, he's going to answer that question because, see, I do not know. So this was as an, maybe to replace it or as an adjunct, because we don't think it's working for the state library to buy all these devices. Okay, there you go, everybody. You can submit a request for the e-reader zoo. While that discussion goes on, I'm going to move on to the next slide because this also has to do with digital literacy. And this is 2 new national initiatives that I want to make you aware of. And these, again, are also very interesting and fluid and frequently, in my opinion at any rate, kind of changing, hard to get a handle on initiatives. The first one is called Connect to Compete. This is being sponsored by a number of foundations and then the for-profit sector, Cox Communication and broadband providers, people like that. There's several arms of this. One is that they are offering well, let me go back. The whole point behind this, the objectives of Connect to Compete, is to help the 62 million unconnected people in this country learn to do something better online, get connected, and make computers a part of their lives. One way they're thinking of doing this is they're offering discounted both connectivity, broadband connectivity, and computer equipment, and you can see the fine print there, in specific zip codes. So if you go to the website for Connect to Compete, you can see where that zip code, there's a box where you can put in your zip code and see if you or your patrons are eligible for this discounted access. To be perfectly frank, when this program was first presented to libraries, we didn't really hear anything about this broadband and computer equipment part of the program. So I'm a little clueless about it. It just has not been presented to us very much. We came on board when the ad campaign became a reality, and that's called Everyone On, and that is a 3-year nationwide ad campaign being created by an ad agency to target digital newbies, people that don't use computers, that don't really think computers have anything for them. Another part of this project, it's different from the ad campaign, is this training, helping people find training. So, okay, you've bought your computer, you've got your access, but you don't know what to do first. So this is a training locator tool, again, zip code driven. And this would allow, the thinking is, the digital person, the newbie, to get online. I think this is so interesting because it's all online, but these are the very people that don't know how to use the computer. But perhaps they'll be coming to your library and asking for assistance. The zip code locator will help people find classes in their area by zip code where they can go and find out more and learn about the computer. All North Carolina public libraries are already listed in this zip code locator. This is sort of macro information. You have a library close to you, they have computers, and it doesn't say much more than that. You can also do this from a map. You, as library staff, can go into this zip code locator tool and enhance the information that's there. Perhaps you have a location that doesn't do any training. You might want to remove that so you're not getting demand there. You might want to add more information in the sites where you do provide training. You put in things like whether you have Wi-Fi access, how many computers you have, what kind of classes you offer, what hours you're open. There is the URL down there, and Jeffrey has just loaded it. If you want to go in and look at it, the way this was presented to libraries was that somebody would be sitting at home watching TV and they would see an ad and they would think, gee, I want to do this. They might come to the library to ask for help or to ask for training. So I want to make sure everybody knows about this. You might want to go in and look at it. I don't know if anybody's heard from any patrons. I've heard from a couple of people that have seen ads. I haven't even seen one of these Everyone On ads. So this is just kind of a heads up. It's still brand new. It debuted March 21st, so it's early days yet. You did see one, Lynn. Wow, that's pretty cool. They are targeting certain people, certain age groups, and they also have some Spanish language ads. So they're trying to get the word out. So one good thing about the Connect to Compete site is that there is some information on that site about training, and there are some training resources that you could direct your patrons to. Another site that is just getting started is digitallearn.org. While the Connect to Compete is being sponsored by the private sector pretty much and some foundations, digitallearn.org is being funded by the Institute of Museum and Library Services with some probably LSTA money, and also by the Public Library Association of the American Library Association. So this second resource is really growing up out of library land. It's going to offer online classes in digital literacy. So these are actual, people can go to this website and take a course in basic training, like using a PC, introduction to email, basic searching of the internet. It's being added to all the time. This hasn't actually debuted yet. It hasn't actually launched. So it's there. You can go and look at it, but it's not really real until sometime this summer is when it's going to launch, so to speak. And it's growing by leaps and bounds. They're adding new things to that every day. So if you have staff who are trying to provide this training to your patrons, it might be worth going in and looking at these two sites, or at least making them aware of the sites. It might be something that could be useful to them. Next, we got something big coming up this fall. I hope you all are putting the NCLA, the North Carolina Library Association Conference, on your calendars. It will be held in Winston-Salem, and the State Library is hoping to be able to offer scholarships because of the timing at the end of one fiscal year and the beginning of another fiscal year. We're not sure how much, you're welcome, Dale, how much money we're going to have, but be thinking about it. I'm sure if we do offer scholarships, we're going to ask you why you want to go and what you want to do there, so you can be thinking in advance about that. I am looking forward to that conference a lot, and to see what the programs are. And there's still time to apply to present a program, so I hope we get some really great programs from all across the state. And guess what? I talked fast and we got through. So at this point, do we have any questions, comments, conversation? This is the time to ask. Oh, you know, I just saw Heather Klein's name, and you know what? I should have put a slide in here about the 15th anniversary of NC Live. NC Live is 15 years old this year, and they have put up a site that is just fabulous. There it is. Thanks, Heather. And it's got great stuff. It's got interviews, including one with me, but also going back and looking at the early days. There's some really, it's just a walk down memory lane. So if you've been around since NC Live began, I would recommend going and looking at that site because it's a lot of fun. Sorry, Heather, I will add that to the slides because I'm going to be presenting this again on Friday, and I will make sure I put that in. Anything else? Nope. Well, let me say that we will post this on the web. So if you have staff that couldn't come, or you want to go back and hunt up a URL in a week or two, this will be listed on the website. I also post monthly reports, which go into a little more detail and get down and more in the weeds every month on the State Library website. And I'd love for you to take a look. Thank you, Jane. There is a lot going on, Liz. I sometimes wonder how we're going to keep all these balls in the air, but with your help, we do.